but that 88 is pulling away.
Earnhardt, Johnson, Menard, Blaney, third-generation star, Dale Earnhardt Jr. brings him to the flag. Checkered flag waving. It's over. It's Earnhardt. Earnhardt trying to cover all spots.
Oh, yeah! Good job, Junebug.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. Checkered flag at Talladega.
Why is this one so much fun? Because your grin told so many stories on your cool-down lap.
It's just real emotional. I haven't won here in a long time. It was my daddy's birthday a couple days ago. Just real emotional, man.
My nerd world.
Hello, Dale Jr. fans, and welcome to my Nerd World and the Dale Jr. Race Preview podcast out, but not down, as we look back somewhat to Talladega for as much as that hurts. And then we look forward to Martinsville, which actually have some good news when it comes to Martinsville. Things are looking up for the 88 after last weekend. And boy, I mean, where do you start with Talladega last weekend, right? I mean, the race was spectacular from a restrictor plate standpoint, and somebody who loves restrictor plate racing like I do. I've been to Talladega several times. I lived in Atlanta for a while. Nothing like actually going to Talladega to watch that race. I mean, it's one of the best NASCAR spectacles that there is. And that was an exciting race on Sunday. A lot of drama, especially if you're a Dale Jr. fan. I mean, if you weren't a Dale Jr. fan, I'm sure there were moments in the race where it got a little monotonous, seeing the cars run single file, but the team certainly had their fair share of ups and downs during the race, and they battled back, and they fought back, and that car, man, that car is, it's something special. I remember watching back during the years when Dale Jr. was in the Budweiser 8 car, and those years when he won those 4 Talladega races in a row. I was at a couple of those races, and I remember the one where the car was just torn up and it had all kinds of tape on it, the Barabond, and he still drove that thing to the front. I remember it might have been the same race where he was sitting in like 11th with 9 laps to go and watching him drive that Budweiser 8 red rocket ship to the front. I mean, it was just something amazing. And throughout the years and the changes that have been made to the cars and the car of tomorrow, and then we went to the 2-car tandem and tango. They really screwed up the restrictor plate racing at Talladega for a number of years. And it seems like over the course of the past 2 years, with this current generation car, it's really gotten back to the type of racing at restrictor plate tracks that's exciting and that's fun. And these races lately at restrictor plates have been really good races. And last Sunday was no exception, except for the finish, right? And I guess let's just get into it. I don't like the fact that NASCAR makes these changes week in and week out. I just don't. I don't know what the better solution is. I don't know if the solution is waiting until the end of the season and then make all the changes and then leave them there. I've been very vocal about this all year long. These changes in the aero packages that they've done and this testing, doing that thing with my fingers that has taken place during the actual, racing has really, in my view, been incredibly frustrating. I don't like it. And I know next year they're putting in these new packages and it should be the set packages, but I don't like that NASCAR uses the actual races as the testing ground for experimentation. I think that needs to be the changes need to be done in the off season and then implemented and then left that way. Now, we're not talking about an aero package. We're talking about the changing in the green-white checker. I don't understand the logic behind that. I really don't. I mean, I get that they were trying to perhaps calm the racing down and make sure that, they're not putting the drivers more at risk with multiple green-white checkers, but we already had that. And I know Dale Jr. has been vocal that he agreed with the changes, and Dale Jr. is a great spokesperson for NASCAR. He backs up their decisions, and he backed up their decision to go to one attempt at a green-white checker. I disagree. And I disagreed before the race, and after the race, I think we saw the unintended consequences of what NASCAR did. I mean, look, even with one green-white checker, you're still going to run the risk of having a bunch of people wreck. It's just the nature of the beast. They put in 3 attempts at a green-white checkered for a reason, so that we didn't have the finish like we had last weekend. I mean, that was a joke. It really was. That was the first time, honestly, it was the first time that I was legitimately upset at NASCAR. It was the first time where I actually stopped and I said, man, NASCAR is screwing up this sport. And I don't do that, very often. I don't go and say that. Normally, I just kind of brush it off. But I was legitimately upset. And not just because I felt like Junior was robbed of the win. It was because I felt like we were all robbed of being able to see the finish that we wanted and deserved to see. It was a joke. I mean, apart from the Kevin Harvick thing, and I'll get to that in just a moment. If they had put in the green-white checkered 3 attempts, you would have had one more attempt, right? Because this is the way that I think it plays out. With the 3 attempts at a green-white checkered, that first screw-up, where they all ended up wrecking before they took the green, and NASCAR said that wasn't a legitimate start, I'm pretty sure NASCAR would have just counted that as one attempt at a green-white checker. So the second attempt, which ended up being Sunday's first attempt, would have been a second attempt at a green-white checker. In which case you would have had Kevin Harvick intentionally wrecking the 6 car, which he did. We'll get to that in a moment. And then you would have had at least one more shot. And I'd much rather see Dale Earnhardt Jr. lose under legitimate circumstances, under full power, than to see this snapshot have to go by where the markers are and when the caution came out and all the controversy that's surrounding it. I mean, that's not why I watch NASCAR. Now, of course, there is the controversy of the televised footage, and there's the now infamous, if you're a Dale Jr. fan, the now infamous TV screenshot of Dale Jr. in front of Joey Logano as the as the yellow is beginning to form on the TV screen. So it's basically that screen grab if you haven't seen it on Twitter, and it shows Dale Jr. with about a door length or a half a car length in front of Joey Logano, and you can begin to see the yellow slide across the screen, and it's paused that the caution was coming out. The one thing I haven't seen online confirmed is whether or not the TV broadcast is connected directly to NASCAR's caution button. Right? When NASCAR throws the caution, does the television broadcast change to caution at exactly the same time? Because obviously, if it does, then Dale Jr. won that race. I assume that's not the case. I assume that the broadcast needs to, hit their own yellow button, own caution button to bring out the caution on the TV screen. I assume that's the answer, but I haven't seen it. It's not like it's changing the outcome of that race at all. I mean, at least not in an official standpoint. Joey Logano won again. But again, if they had just done the 3 green-white checkers and hadn't changed it, NASCAR just shot themselves in the foot. Look, and you can't deny that Joey Logano is on a tear right now. I don't like Joey Logano. I tend to think he's a punk. Okay, I don't necessarily like his attitude, and we as fans get frustrated when you see a guy winning over and over again. But I don't particularly like Joey Logano as a driver, and when you see that guy winning all the time, it's frustrating. But you can't deny that he's won those races. But I don't like the way that he drives. I don't like his attitude. I don't like what he did to Kevin Harvick. I mean, to Matt Kenseth the week prior. I think he's a bit of a punk. He's also what NASCAR needs, because NASCAR needs villains and bad guys. I understand that. He's got a good car. He looks fast again for Martinsville. And Dale Jr. hit the nail on the head after the race was over. If they had had a decent first two races in that round, he would have transferred through. And with that second place finish, he would have transferred through. He only missed it by 15 spots. You cover those spots in the first two races of that round, and Dale Jr. is still in this chase hunt come Martinsville. It's hard when you're a Dale Jr. fan and you want to see him do well, to see him booted out of the chase for the championship again after Talladega. But Dale Jr. was right, and, we move on to Martinsville. If Dale Jr. I think the big takeaway for me is, one, Dale Jr. reconfirmed why I'm a fan of his, right? His attitude. And it makes it a lot easier when you're a fan and you're disappointed in what happened, and especially when you feel like you were robbed of a win. It makes it easier when you see that your driver is being positive about what happened. Look to see if you can grab some wins, and keep an eye on these final races of the season as we look towards next year. How does he do in these final races, and what does that look like if he makes it past Talladega next season? So, again, just a final point on, and I wasn't planning on spending this much time talking about Talladega. I think NASCAR screwed up, and I think NASCAR needs to stop jerking around with these rules and manipulating this every single weekend. It smacks of desperation. This chase format is doing what this chase format needs to do, and that is make sure that we keep eyes on the sport. And I heard somebody make a comment that if it wasn't for this chase format, you wouldn't see the different sports networks and recap sports news shows talking about NASCAR the way that they are right now. If this was the traditional format or the other chase format, but because of this format, you do see them talking about NASCAR, and that's a good thing. However, it's going to ruin NASCAR's credibility, and it's going to be reduced to something like, pro wrestling. No offense to those that like pro wrestling, not my cup of tea, but I know people like it. But there also is a sense of a lack of realism when it comes to pro wrestling. And unfortunately, this nonsense of changing the rules prior to races and then having these types of outcomes doesn't translate well to that. Nor does having what Kevin Harvick did either. I like Kevin Harvick. I'm not a fan of his, but I think he's okay. He's obviously a great driver. What he did last weekend was BS, man. Everybody saw what he did. If you want to go and manipulate the race like that and your car's not running well, then you're going to reduce NASCAR to wrestling. I mean, that's just the nature of it. He took out other drivers and a bunch of other cars in the field because he knew he wasn't going to be able to get his car up to speed. He wasn't going to be able to complete a lap without losing all those spots and probably not advancing in the chase. And he took out a bunch of drivers to keep himself in it. I don't think that's right. I think that's wrong. Absolutely wrong. And I wish NASCAR would have called him out. Anybody watching that in-car saw what he was doing. There was no reason for him to be shaking that wheel back and forth on his car to warm up his tires, knowing full well his engine was going out and there was no way he was going to be able to maintain minimum speed, and the car was probably going to blow. He timed it just right as the 6 car came by to spin him out to cause the caution after they passed the start-finish line, knowing what NASCAR had done, and that would have called that they would have called the race, and he would have been able to maintain his spot. That was bogus, and I wish NASCAR would have called him on it. But I think NASCAR feels like they're going to get more out of this chase with him in it and the controversy about it, and so you weigh the pros and cons. Well, which one benefits us more, keeping him in it and making people mad, or kicking him out, taking away those positions and making people mad? They figured keeping him in it, and that's what they did. All right, let's look ahead. Real quick, if you go to dalejr.com, items that are available, not a whole lot this week. There are a couple of women's items for the winter, some pullovers, a jacket. There is a new iPhone 6 case that is available for your phone. It is the Diet Mountain Dew scheme, which is interesting. It's actually a part bottle opener, part iPhone 6 case. That looks dangerous. But it's utilizing the colors for the Diet Mountain Dew car. Dale Jr. was shooting footage this week for a Diet Mountain Dew commercial. He showed off some of his Alpine shoes. I think that they're updating that paint scheme this year.